All right, I think it's time to get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Sage Lang, and I'm the Volkswagen Settlement Specialist with the Hawaii State Energy Office. And I helped develop the diesel replacement rebate, and that's what I'll be sharing with you today. So I see a few more people are still joining. If there is anything you missed, this webinar will be recorded. So just getting started here. The Volkswagen settlement is a pot of funds that have been allocated to the states as a result of the Volkswagen emissions scandal. We're directed to use these funds on emissions reduction projects, but we get the freedom to respond to community needs within that framework. So we developed the beneficiary mitigation plan, which you can read about online, and have allocated these funds into these three buckets here. So today I'll be talking about the diesel replacement rebate, which utilizes the DARA option. The DARA program is offered by the EPA and provides funds to states for diesel reduction programs such as this one. And utilizing this option allows us to combine Volkswagen funds with an existing program to maximize our local investment. So we had the opportunity to partner with the Hawaii Department of Health to use this DARA grant. So I will briefly turn it over to DOH to introduce themselves and then the EPA.
Hi, I'm Barry Ching. I'm from the Clean Air branch of the Department of Health. I and a couple of my colleagues are on the call. As Sage mentioned, we're the grantee for the Federal Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, State Clean Diesel Program. And that's our role. We can go into details more later. It's not real relevant to everyone, but by partnering with the Hawaii State Energy Office with the Volkswagen funds, we actually can leverage more funds from the EPA. And so there's an additional benefit. So besides just pooling our money, we actually get an additional amount from the very generous federal government. The other thing I was going to mention was, just as Sage is showing, only a portion of the Volkswagen funds go to this program. For us, the DERA grant, most of it's going to go to this DRR program. But part of our aim is to reduce these emissions in general. And so we may use the DERA grant for other projects as well. And so some years, all of it will go to this DRR program. Some years it may not. And then the next is for very specific details about the DERA program. I'm going to leave it to Asia and Dana from EPA to provide that. So Asia and Dana.
Hi, thanks, Barry. My name is Asia Yuri, and I am an EPA Region 9 project officer for DERA programs. I live in Honolulu, and I'm joined by my colleague Dana Mayfield, who is the technical lead for the DERA grants. So DERA stands for Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, and we administer these grant programs. These are non-competed grant programs, and as Barry mentioned, some of the money goes to the state of Hawaii in a DERA grant, and the state gets to then choose how it would like to reduce diesel emissions from eligible medium and heavy duty vehicles and equipment. So in Hawaii, like Barry said, they've chosen to work with the State Energy Office and have decided this year to put the funds into the DRR program. So we are very happy that this program has been created and is being launched. We're thrilled. So thank you for including us, and we look forward to seeing where this goes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. And to reiterate, while this program does involve multiple funding sources, there is only one application, and the Energy Office will be managing the program process. So this program will provide a rebate of up to 45% off the cost of replacing an existing medium or heavy duty vehicle with a battery electric vehicle. This rebate will be sent out after the vehicle has been purchased and received and the existing vehicle has been scrapped. Public and private organizations within the state of Hawaii are encouraged to apply, but please be aware that employees and contractors of the Hawaii Department of Health or the Hawaii State Energy Office are not eligible. This program will launch next Friday at 9 a.m. Applications can be submitted online. And if you're having any difficulty with the online application, feel free to send me an email. My email is noted on the application and at the end of this presentation. There's currently a sample application online now, so feel free to take a look at that to get a preview of what to expect. If you do have multiple projects, please submit one application per vehicle. Applications will be reviewed on a rolling basis, so they will be reviewed in the order that they are received. So there's approximately $2.1 million of funds available for rebates this year, but be aware that no organization can receive more than $1.2 million of rebate funds. However, 4 months after program launch, if funds are still available, we may offer funds to organizations that have met their funding cap. Participants must provide a 55% cost match, but be aware that this match cannot come from other federal sources. As noted on the slide, rebates cannot be applied to vehicles purchased prior to project selection. Program funds must be used only to purchase a replacement vehicle that is equipped with essential or standard equipment. So you are, of course, free to add any additional features, but that is at the participant's expense. You'll be asked to list those in the application. At the time of application, you'll be asked to provide a quote for both the vehicle and the charger. This will be used to estimate the 45% rebate and reserve your funds. The rebate will be, the final rebate will be 45% of the total project cost, or the amount of the initial rebate estimate, whichever is lower. So if the project does come in over budget, over estimate, we can only reserve, offer the amount of funds that were initially reserved. So here is a summary of the eligible projects. This program will fund school, transit, shuttle, and tour buses that meet the definition of medium and heavy duty vehicles. We will also be funding medium and heavy duty trucks. These existing vehicles must be diesel, fully operational vehicles, and they will be scrapped after the replacement battery electric vehicle has been received. Additionally, the applicant must currently own and operate the existing vehicle and have owned and operated the vehicle during the 2 years prior to application. Before submitting your application, please read through the program guide. This is on our website. Highly encourage you to read it through. Feel free to reach out with any other questions that arise. We will also have a Q&A at the end of this presentation. So the replacement vehicle must be fully battery electric, must be a similar vehicle weight as the vehicle being replaced, and should be the most recent model year available. It cannot be a retrofit. So we're not funding engine replacements at this time. Additionally, the replacement vehicle must operate in the state of Hawaii for a minimum of 5 years immediately following deployment. This program can include the cost of one charger per vehicle. This cost is included in the overall project value and is used to calculate the 45% rebate. It is important to note that if you apply or intend to apply for the Hawaii Energy Charger rebate, that rebate will reduce the overall project cost that is eligible for the 45% rebate. So you'll take the quoted cost of the charger minus the Hawaii Energy rebate, and that new total will be used to calculate the rebate for this program. The process is fairly straightforward, as you can see here. The project begins when the agreement is signed. So purchases made prior are not eligible for the rebate. You will need to show proof of purchase within 4 months of the program launch. If you can't show proof of purchase, those funds that are reserved may be released. As mentioned earlier, this program combines both Volkswagen funds and DARA funds, depending on this program combines both Volkswagen funds and DARA funds from multiple funding years. So projects will be matched with the funding year depending on eligibility. Participants will be made aware of their funding year when their application is accepted. So please be aware of these deadlines noted here. We will make sure that you're aware of the project deadline for your project if you're accepted, and we'll be connecting throughout the process. Extensions are possible, but they're definitely not guaranteed. So please keep that timeline in mind. So on that note, I definitely encourage everyone to apply next Friday. This is a multi-year program, so if you aren't able to get funding this year, you can apply again in the next round. And I'm going to now turn the virtual mic to Hawaiian Electric and then Hawaiian Energy, after which we'll have an open Q&A. And if you want to start dropping questions into the chat, feel free.
Thanks, Sage. I'm Tandy Tabata, Senior Program Manager in Hawaiian Electric's Electrification of Transportation Department. And today I did want to talk about a new program that we're planning to launch early next year called Charge Up eBus. To start, I wanted to share a quick video that kind of explains in a quick minute what is entailed in this program. So give me a second to share.
As a state, Hawaii has boldly committed to 100% clean energy by 2045 and zero-emission government-owned light-duty fleets by 2035. Electric vehicles are the future and can help owners save on fuel and maintenance costs while reducing carbon emissions and reducing noise pollution. This holds especially true for companies with fleets like bus operators. Hawaiian Electric wants to make the transition to electric buses easier through its new pilot program, Charge Up eBus, which will simplify and reduce charging installation costs for bus operators. Under this pilot, Hawaiian Electric will take care of the design, permitting, installation, and maintenance of all the electrical infrastructure up to the charge station. That means lower upfront costs and fewer things to worry about. If you have a site on Oahu, Maui, or Hawaii Island that could serve as a primary location for charging equipment and e-buses, and have the ability to purchase, lease, or convert at least one electric bus and charge station in 2022, you may qualify for this program. To apply to this limited pilot program, visit www.hawaiianelectric.com/chargeupebus to download the program handbook, an application form, and supporting documents. After an application is received, Hawaiian Electric will conduct a site visit to assess feasibility and develop a preliminary design plan. Once approved and agreements are signed, we take care of permitting and building out the electrical infrastructure. All you need to do then is permit, purchase, and install your charge station. Plug in and you're ready to hit the road. Hawaiian Electric looks forward to partnering with you on this transition to a greener, better future. Our team is here to help you through the process. Please reach out to us at chargeup@hawaiianelectric.com.
Thanks for taking a moment to watch that quick video. So in that video, as I mentioned, this is a great opportunity where Hawaiian Electric is able to install, own, and maintain non-traditional infrastructure that goes beyond the meter. Typically, we're up to the meter. This goes beyond the meter, including the electrical panel, up into the customer's charging equipment or charging station. In the case of buses, it might be something like a charging cabinet. And really, it allows the customer to focus primarily on their charging equipment itself and, of course, the buses that they need to procure. So definitely reducing the complexity in putting in this infrastructure. Just to note, as it mentioned earlier, we are still in the ramp up phase. We did get approval earlier this year. We're currently building out the requirements, documentation, internal processes for this pilot, and we're expecting to launch early next year, hopefully in February. We do have a program design report that we will be filing with the commission in January. Assuming there's no significant changes, we are going to go forward with that February launch. This is kind of a high-level overview of what that process will look like, and these are all very, estimated timelines, but it might give you an idea of what this rollout and the application process might look like, all subject to change. But it is a 3-year pilot. The first stage will be focused on, of course, your application. We will do our site visit due diligence. There will be additional fact finding on the type of vehicles that you plan to procure, as well as the charging equipment, and then signing the participation agreement with us. And at that point, in that stage one, we will reserve funding. So at the end of stage one, the funds will be set aside for your project. Then in stage two, it's really focused on all the construction pieces. So further detailed designs, permitting, construction on our side. And then also on the customer side, the installation of your charging equipment as well. And that's, approximately 10 months. Again, this is a pilot. We'll see how these timelines go. And then we anticipate the final stage, stage 3, where buses will have arrived. We're validating that the data collection is happening, and that data collection will start for run for approximately 1 year, the remaining year of this 3-year pilot. There is a requirement to continue data collection for 10 years, which is the entire duration of where Hawaiian Electric will own that infrastructure. Okay, so as it mentioned in the video, eligibility, we're looking at bus operators that are located on Oahu, Maui, or Hawaii Islands, and sites that are serving as their primary location for charging. As far as vehicle requirements, we are looking at class 5 through 8 electric buses that have been procured after May 7th of this year, and all the way up until 30 days after signing that agreement. And then we'll also be looking for buses that can provide and collect and provide telematic data. As far as charging stations, we're looking at stations that are smart, have some communication connectivity, and can provide port level data to us. Of course, we've got some general standards and compliance, that should be applicable to most stations that are available today. And then another component of this pilot, customers who are participating will also enroll in one of our e-bus rates. And this is separately metered service, so separately metered specifically for charging electric buses. There is a requirement to have an existing commercial schedule J or P meter, and that will be coupled with the e-bus J or the e-bus P rate for the charging. And as you can kind of see, the benefits are that there are lower rates overnight and throughout the midday period, really to incentivize, charging where renewables are available on the grid, or, typical demand is lower on the grid. And then in the peak period between 5 and 10 p.m., there is a energy cost disincentive and demand charges to apply during that period. And that's all I've got. So my brief overview on that program.
Great, thank you. So we're going to pass the mic over to Desiree from Hawaii Energy to share a bit about Hawaii Energy's charging rebate.
I'm just going to share my screen real quick. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Desiree Sumaling. I'm the Business Alliances Advisor at Hawaii Energy. I also lead the EV charging station program, as well as our Clean Energy Ally program. All right. Some of you may already know who we are, but we are here to help families and businesses make smart energy choices. Just to give you some background on the EV charging station rebate program, this past June, Governor Ige signed Act 75 to continue funding this program. For this current period that began on July 1st and ends on June 30th of next year, only $163,000 in funds is available. Future funding amounts are yet to be determined. Just some highlights of this rebate program is that rebates are offered on a first come, first served basis as projects are completed. So funding cannot be reserved. And pre-approval is not required, but I do highly encourage it just to ensure that the charger you are installing is eligible for the rebate. So there are two types of equipment that are eligible. The first is the level 2 station. Some basic requirements of the level 2 station is that they must have at least 2 ports, and they must be networked as well. The rebate amount for new installations is $4,500. For station retrofits, it is a $3,000 rebate. There is a rebate cap when you apply for a rebate, and that is 6 level 2 stations per site. The next type of eligible charger are DC fast chargers. The most basic requirement for DC fast chargers is that it must be networked. And the rebate amounts for a new installation is $35,000, and for station retrofits, it is $28,000. The rebate cap for DC fast chargers is 2 DC fast chargers per utility customer, but up to 1 per site. So to apply for this EV charging station rebate, it is a 5 to 6 step process. The first is that you do need to complete the EV charging station rebate application that you can download from our website. You do need to sign a current W-9 tax form. It requires specification sheets of the unit you're installing, as well as a final invoice, just to confirm the material purchase and installation of the unit. If you're looking for a pre-approval, a scope of work or proposal will also work. And the last item is like photos of the EV charging stations that are installed. So just photos of the signage, the parking stalls, and the unit itself. And once you have all of that, you can email your documents to me. And if you're unsure where to start, I do recommend contacting one of our clean energy allies. We have a special subset of allies who specialize in EV charging stations. We do have 55 clean energy allies that are specializing in this, and they can help you with the process. And they are familiar with the application process as well, and can guide you through that. If you'd like to learn more about the EV charging program, you can just go to hawaiienergy.com/EV charging. On the website, you'll notice that there is a tracker on the website. It is updated. It is updated regularly. It was updated last week. We can see that we no longer have 100% of funds. We do have 87% of funds available. And if you have any further questions, my contact information is on the screen. It's also on the EV charging website as well.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to open it up for Q&A. I see that there are a number of questions in the chat. So I'll start reading out some of those. The first one is there a model year range required for the vehicle that needs to get scrapped? So there is, and it depends on the funding year that we're able to apply to the program. One of the funding years is much broader than the other. So all I can say is please get your application in early, and we'll be able to match you with the funding that best fits your situation. I see another question about applying if they're the OEM. So at the moment, this program is only open to participants who are receiving the vehicle, who own the existing vehicle and have the ability to scrap that vehicle. So OEMs are not eligible for this program. And also, if I don't answer your question in full, please feel free to send another question in the chat or speak up and unmute yourself. I see a question from Chris about the HECO program, asking about if the HECO program applies to truck companies. So our program does offer rebates for trucks, for medium and heavy duty trucks. I can't speak to the HECO program. So if Tandy, if you'd like to.
Sure, I'll chime in on that. So currently this program is specific to electric buses. we do have a request for a program being reviewed by the commission for what we would call like a commercial make ready. And I think that would apply to a much broader range of different types of vehicles. We are really waiting to hear back from the commission on that, but once that's available, it would be a similar type of program with rates that are coupled with that. So right now, this is coupled specifically with our electric bus rates, which were approved previously, and that is why it's focused and coupled that way as an electric bus program.
Great, thank you. And I think that also answers Lori's question about the eBus program. I see a question from Gabby about conversions. Thank you for that question and the context. That's great to have. For this initial round, only new vehicles are eligible. So we're going to continue to take feedback and review the different options that we have. This will be a multi-year program. So that may be considered for future rounds. Let's see. Is this applicable to leased vehicles? That's a question from Christy. This funding cannot be applied to a vehicle lease. It must, if you need to use a loan, it must be a typical purchase loan from a bank. But once you own the vehicle and have scrapped the existing vehicle, then you are free to lease it to a contractor. What you do after you have purchased the vehicle is not necessarily our concern. I see a question from Barry. Are Class 8 refuse collection trucks applicable to these grants? Truck delivery times would be longer. So if it's a Class 8, I think it would be eligible. Obviously, we'll need to see the full vehicle information, but if it qualifies as a medium heavy duty truck, I think you're good to send in an application, but can't give absolute definitive answers until I see the application itself. And then I see a question for Tandy about infrastructure build out.
Yep, I see that. Thanks. Hi, Riley. So I think your question is, does the infrastructure build out include work that transcends the property line? And I think the answer is yes. You know, typically Hawaiian Electric brings in power to provide service for any site, and that will include going into the property itself. Like I mentioned, up onto the charging equipment. Let me know if that doesn't quite answer your question or if I can clarify anything further.
All right, that's the end of the questions that I have in the chat. If anyone would like to unmute themselves and ask a question, feel free. Otherwise, you are more than welcome to send me an email or send a inquiry through the Volkswagen website. We are open to any questions, open to helping folks. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, please feel free now. All right, hearing none.
Hey, this is Ian. Can I ask a question?
Oh, of course.
Thanks. Ian Tierney, KY Sustainability Studio, representing the Honolulu airports. Wondering when the payout would be by the HSEO, DOTA, or DOH, EPA, whoever it may be, for this rebate. Is it, you mentioned, I think, after the destruction of the previous vehicle and upon delivery of the new vehicle?
Correct. Yes. So you'll receive the new vehicle, scrap the old one. We assume that won't happen until you receive the new one, but you're free to make your own choices there. And then we will need the paperwork showing that it has been scrapped. You'll need to get a scrappage signature and share photos showing that it has been scrapped according to the guidelines in the program guide. And at that point, we'll receive the final invoice, the final receipt from you all, and then we will initiate the rebate payment. And that will be sent via check. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, of course. And for participants who are accepted to the program, we will be sending the paperwork that will need to be filled out, such as a scrappage statement that I mentioned, the participant agreement, that will be sent via email or e-sign after you are accepted. So that is not currently online right now. But once a participant has been accepted, then we'll be working with them closely to make sure that all of that is filled out. I'm seeing a question from Gabby. Is it true that funding cannot be paired with other third-party funding? So it can't be paired with other federal grants. And if Dana or Asia from EPA would like to elaborate on that further, please jump in. Because some of this funding does come from the EPA, it can't be combined with other federal funding. But if you have third-party funding from donations or other sources, I can't see that being a problem as long as it's not the Hawaii Energy Rebate, that will be reduced from the program cost. So in the application, and you can see the sample application online, there will be a section for you to describe how you plan to gather the funds to purchase the vehicle. And so you can describe the different funding sources there, and we will always follow up if we have any questions.
And yeah, this is Dana from EPA. That's correct. So as long as it's not a federal source and it's something like other state or local funds, that's okay.
Great, thank you, Dana. I'm seeing a question, will a quote be needed to accompany the application? Yes. It doesn't need to be a binding quote, but we do need a quote to show that you have embarked on the procurement timeline, and that will also be used to estimate the 45% rebate. So we'll need a quote for both the vehicle and the charger. And then that will be the overall project cost. And the rebate will be 45% of that. That amount will be reserved at the time of that your application is accepted, and will be reserved for you through the next 4 months. We will need you to show us a proof of purchase at that point. Otherwise, the funds may be released to other folks who are in the queue. Let's see. I'm seeing a question on scrappage. Does the end user have to pay for scrapping the vehicle? Dana, would you like to jump in there? My understanding is that the participant is responsible for those costs. But if you would like to jump in there, that would be great.
Sure. So it kind of depends how you set up your program, but technically in DERA, we can include fees associated with scrappage into the total cost of the vehicle. So I would also defer to Sage and what they're planning on funding.
Great, thank you. So we'll provide an update on that on the website prior to launch. I see a question on the application requires delivery by September 22 or 2023. How is this decided? So that depends on which funding year applies to your program. So depending on the age of the vehicle and the type of vehicle, we will match one of the funding sources to your project. And we will tell you at the time of application which funding source you'll be using and what your deadline is. And it is possible to get an extension, but at this time we can't guarantee. That's something you'd have to apply for. Let's see. For the DRR, aside from the vehicle being fully functional, are there any restrictions on the age of the vehicle or mileage? So the age of the vehicle will impact which funding source can be applied to your project. Mileage, one of the requirements that we are aiming for is that there at least 7,000 miles per year on a vehicle. However, we understand that being an island, that's difficult to achieve. So in the application, we're requesting the mileage.
My fault. Look.
If you could please mute when you're not speaking, thank you. We will be requesting the average mileage, and we will see what we can do if it is under 7,000 miles. I will give it one more moment for anyone to finish typing a question. Otherwise, please feel free to send me an email if you have any further questions. Really appreciate you all being here today. Let's see, Ian, I see you've turned back on your video. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if there's an opportunity to go through kind of our fleet list with you to maybe like just narrow down our focus on what vehicles would maybe be the best candidates for the program. Is that something you'd make yourself available for?
That's a great question. I would have to discuss that with the rest of the team to see if that's something we can make available for people on request. But that's a great idea. So thanks for bringing that up. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. I'm not seeing any more in the chat. So I think I will end it there. Please feel free to send me an email. Sign up for the Volkswagen email list if you haven't already. And thank you all for being here. And thank you so much to our program participants, program partners, and encourage everyone to apply next week. Thank you.